Grace placed the last dish on the table just as Marcus pushed the door open. He was impeccably dressed in a suit, holding a chocolate mousse cake, Grace's favorite. "You've worked hard, darling." He kissed Grace's cheek, his fingers naturally brushing her shoulder. "It's my college reunion today, I came home early to help you." Grace smiled, taking the cake. Married for 7 years, Marcus had always been the model husband in their Instagram post. Always home on time, remembering all anniversaries, and shared a joint account. Even her best friend said she hit the jackpot. "Haven't the others arrived?" Marcus asked as he loosened his tie. "They're on their way." Grace set out the dishes and silverware. "You said you wanted to invite colleagues, so I invited a few more friends." Marcus paused, then quickly resumed naturally. "The more the merrier." The doorbell rang. Grace went to open the door. It was Skylar. She wore a tight-fitting dress, her makeup exquisite, and carried a bottle of red wine. "Hello, Grace," Skylar smiled sweetly. "Is here?" Grace stepped aside to let her in. Skylar was a new designer at Marcus's company, and she had started appearing frequently in their lives 6 months ago. Weekend gatherings, company events, even Grace's birthday, she was always there. Friends arrived one after another. At the dinner table, Marcus served Grace food and poured her water, as attentive as ever. Skylar sat opposite them, occasionally exchanging glances with Marcus. After a few rounds of drinks, Grace went to the kitchen to cut fruit. Through the half-open door, she saw Marcus and Skylar standing on the balcony. The night breeze carried their conversation to her ears. "Our usual spot next Wednesday?" Skylar's voice. "Yes, she's going to her parents' place." Marcus's distinct regional accent emerged. "I've missed you so much." Grace's finger was cut by the fruit knife. A bead of blood welled up, but she felt no pain. A buzzing sound filled her ears, as if someone was ringing a bell in her head. "Grace?" Skylar suddenly appeared at the kitchen doorway. "Do you need any help?" Grace mechanically shook her head. Skylar's gaze fell on her bleeding finger, and the corner of her mouth subtly lifted. That night, Grace lay in bed, Marcus's arm wrapped around her waist. His breathing was even, like an innocent child. Grace lay awake until dawn. The next day was Sunday. Marcus said he had to work overtime and left in a hurry. Grace stood by the window, watching his car drive out of the neighborhood, then picked up her phone. "Hello, it's me." She spoke into the phone. "I need you to look someone up for me." 3 days later, Grace received an envelope. Inside were Skylar's details: 26 years old, unmarried, and from the same hometown as Marcus. More importantly, her rental contract, signed by Marcus. Grace locked the document in a drawer. She began to observe Marcus's every move. While he showered, she checked his phone. The password hadn't changed, but the WeChat chat history was completely clean. Grace downloaded data recovery software, and the deleted messages slowly reappeared. "Can't tonight, she's home. I miss your scent. Just wait a little longer, I'll divorce her." Grace took screenshots and uploaded them to cloud storage. Her hand was steady, her heart rate normal. When came home, Grace was cooking. He hugged her from behind. "Darling, it smells wonderful." Grace turned, her smile perfect. "Wash your hands and let's eat." After dinner, Marcus said he had to work overtime in his home office. Grace brought him a cup of tea, then returned to the bedroom. She opened her laptop and logged into Marcus's cloud storage. The password was their wedding anniversary. In the synchronized memo, there was a folder named Project A. Opening it, Grace saw hotel booking records, transfer vouchers, and even a divorce lawyer's contact information. The earliest file date was a year ago, when she was busy taking care of her sick moth. Grace closed her laptop. Outside, it began to rain, the raindrops hitting the glass like countless tiny fingers scratching. The next day, Grace took the day off. On the 3rd day, she followed Marcus to his company, then trailed Skylar. On the 4th day, the young woman walked into a coffee shop, where Marcus was already waiting. On the 5th day, they sat in a corner, Skylar's hand on Marcus's leg, laughing boisterously. Grace took photos and then left. She went to the bank and printed out a year's worth of bank statements. Significant expenses were all marked business expenses, but the recipients were furniture stores, jewelry shops, and travel agencies. That evening, Marcus texted to say he had a business dinner. Grace drove to his company building, watched him and Skylar walk out arm in arm, and get into a taxi. She followed them all the way until they entered a hotel. Grace sat in her car and sent a message to her best friend, Sarah. "I found the evidence." Her phone lit up. It was Marcus. "Darling, I might be very late, don't wait up for me." Grace didn't reply. She opened her navigation app and typed in an address, Skylar's address from the envelope. The apartment building was new, and the doorman recognized her. "Hello, Mrs. Marcus, here to see Mr. Marcus?" "He just came back." Grace smiled and nodded. In the elevator, her finger hovered over the doorbell, but she ultimately didn't press it. She crouched down and saw 2 pairs of shoes by the door through the crack, Marcus's leather shoes and a pair of red high heels. Back home, Grace made a cup of tea. A comedy played on TV, the actors laughing uproariously. She picked up her phone, took a photo of their wedding photo on the coffee table, then deleted all backups from the cloud. Marcus didn't return until past midnight, carrying a faint scent of perfume. He quietly slipped into bed and soon fell asleep. Grace lay awake in the darkness, planning her next move. At dawn, Grace went to the law firm. "I'd like to consult about a divorce," she told Mr. David. "My husband is cheating." Mr. David pushed a form across the table. "Do you have evidence?" Grace opened her phone's photo album, swiping through pictures, WeChat records, bank statements, hotel surveillance screenshots, and the shoes by the door at the apartment building last night. "Is this enough?" she asked. Mr. David nodded. "It's more than enough." Walking out of the law firm, Grace took a deep breath. The sky was blue, and the sunlight was dazzling. She took out her phone and called a real estate agent. "I want to sell my house," she said. "As soon as possible." At 6 in the morning, Marcus's alarm went off. He quickly pressed snooze, then quietly got out of bed, careful not to wake Grace. Grace closed her eyes, listening to her husband's sounds of washing in the bathroom. After the water stopped, Marcus returned to the bed and leaned down to kiss her forehead. "Darling, I'm making breakfast," he whispered, as if handling something fragile. Grace pretended to just wake up, rubbing her eyes. "So early?" "It's the second day of your period today," Marcus said, tying on an apron, his smile gentle. "I'll make you ginger tea." The gentle clinking of pots and pans came from the kitchen. Grace picked up her phone from beside the pillow. The screen displayed a new message. "The hotel surveillance for December 3rd has been found, video sent to your email." She deleted the message and got up to wash. The woman in the mirror had faint dark circles under her eyes, but a perfect smile on her lips. On the dining table were fried eggs, toast, and steaming ginger tea. Marcus was juicing fruit, his back tall and straight. "It's the weekend today, any plans?" Grace sipped her ginger tea slowly. It was just the right sweetness. Marcus wiped his hands. "I'll spend the morning with you at home, and in the afternoon, I have an urgent client meeting at the company." He paused. "I might be back late tonight, don't wait for me or dinner." "Okay," Grace nodded. "Don't drink too much." Marcus walked behind her and massaged her shoulders. "Don't worry, I remember." His fingers had just the right pressure. "I quit drinking after that stomach hemorrhage." Grace lowered her eyes. During that stomach hemorrhage, she had stayed by his side in the hospital for 3 days. But the medical record stated heavy alcohol consumption, and the date was Skylar's birthday. After breakfast, Marcus volunteered to wash the dishes. Grace sat on the sofa, flipping through a magazine, her peripheral vision catching her husband's phone on the coffee table. The screen lit up with a text message, "Room key at our usual spot, 303. Marcus walked out, wiping his hands, and his expression didn't change when he saw the phone. He naturally picked it up and smiled. "Darling, I'm going to the supermarket to buy a few things. What do you want for lunch?" "Anything," Grace said without looking up. "I like whatever you make." Marcus kissed her cheek again before leaving. Grace waited for the elevator door to close, then immediately went to the window. 5 minutes later, Marcus's car drove out of the neighborhood, heading in the opposite direction from the supermarket. Grace put on her coat, mask, and baseball cap. She drove, following the GPS on her phone. She had installed a tracker in his car last week while he was showering. The hotel, room 303. Grace stood at the end of the hallway, watching a server push a food cart into the room. The moment the door opened, she heard Skylar's laughter. 2 hours later, Marcus came out. He looked refreshed, adjusting his tie as he walked. Grace hid in the fire escape, taking a photo of him leaving. On the way home, Marcus indeed stopped at the supermarket. Grace watched his serious back as he selected steak and red wine, her stomach churning. "Darling, I'm home." Marcus came in carrying shopping bags. "I bought your favorite steak." Grace was watering flowers and turned at his words. "Didn't you say you had a business dinner tonight?" "I canceled it," Marcus said, walking closer, carrying a faint scent of shower gel. He had showered. "I wanted to spend more time with you." Dinner was lavish. Marcus recounted interesting company stories, making Grace laugh. After dinner, he voluntarily cleared the table and even tidied up the refrigerator. "Darling, your skincare products are almost empty," Marcus said, pointing to the serum on the vanity. "I asked a friend to bring 2 bottles from abroad for you, they'll arrive next week." Grace's heart ached. This serum cost over 2,000 yuan per bottle, and she usually couldn't bear to buy it. But's Instagram post had shown the same product, caption "Thanks, darling." Late at night, after Marcus was fast asleep, Grace checked his phone again. WeChat was still clean, but she discovered an encrypted photo album. The password wasn't any of his usual ones. Grace tried Skylar's birthday, incorrect. She tried the date of their first date, still wrong. When she entered her own birthday, the album opened. It was full of Skylar's photos. Beach photos in a bikini, hotel beds, and even selfies of Marcus and Skylar in bed. The earliest photo was taken last year, while Grace's mother was hospitalized. Grace's hands began to tremble. She continued to scroll and found a video. When she played it, Marcus's voice came out. "Once I divorce her, we'll get married. This rundown house is hers, I'll buy a new one." The video date was 3 months ago, on Grace's birthday. Marcus had said he was going on a business trip, but he had actually taken Skylar to Maui. Grace sent the video to her own phone and deleted the sending record. She put down her phone and looked at her sleeping husband. In the moonlight, his profile was so familiar, yet so strange. The next day was Monday. Marcus got up even earlier, made a lavish breakfast, and even ironed Grace's shirt. "It's getting colder today, wear more layers." He put Grace's coat over her shoulders and handed her a travel mug. "Herbal tea, remember to drink it." Grace thanked him and watched him drive away. Then she turned and went back inside, opened her laptop, and logged into Marcus's email. The password was the location of their first date. The inbox contained dozens of unread hotel reservation confirmations, all marked meeting. Grace took screenshots of each one and then checked the trash. There were several explicit emails from Skylar, all sent on nights when Marcus was supposedly working overtime. At noon, Grace met her best friend, Sarah, for lunch. "You've lost weight," Sarah observed. "Too much stress at work?" Grace stirred her salad. "Marcus is cheating on me." Sarah's fork clattered onto her plate. "Impossible." She lowered her voice. "He's so good to you, everyone at the company knows he's known for being devoted to his wife." Grace opened her phone's photo album, sliding to the encrypted section. Sarah's face turned pale after seeing the photos. "That bitch. Is Skylar?" "It's been 6 months," Grace said calmly. "Maybe longer." "What are you going to do?" Grace put her phone away. "First, I'll gather evidence." Her eyes were cold. "He's acting so devoted, I should give him an award." After lunch, Grace went to the bank. She printed out the bank statements for all their joint accounts and found a significant sum of money transferred into an unfamiliar account in the past 6 months. The teller told her it was Marcus's private account, opened last month. On the way home, Grace received a call from Marcus. "Darling, a few colleagues are having dinner tonight, do you want to join?" "Sure," Grace readily agreed. "Where?" There was a pause on the other end. "Just the downtown." Grace knew that restaurant. Last week, Skylar had posted an Instagram post with that location, and in the corner of one photo, half of a man's hand was visible, wearing the same wedding ring as Marcus. At 7 that evening, Grace, meticulously said, went to the dinner. 7 or 8 people were in the private room, and Skylar was there too. Her smile froze for a moment when she saw Grace. "Hello, Grace." Skylar quickly recovered, affectionately taking Grace's arm. "Marcus said you usually don't like attending gatherings, it's rare to see you today." Marcus pulled out a chair beside him. "Darling, sit here." At the dinner table, Marcus was very attentive to Grace, serving her food and pouring water, which drew teasing remarks from colleagues. Skylar sat opposite, occasionally exchanging glances with Marcus. Midway through, Grace went to the restroom. Returning, she saw Marcus and Skylar pressed close together in the hallway corner. Skylar's hand was inside Marcus's shirt, and they were kissing passionately. Grace retreated to the corner, waiting for them to separate before appearing. Back in the private room, Marcus was serving her soup. "Darling, drink it while it's hot." When the gathering ended, Marcus walked to the parking lot with his arm around Grace's waist. Skylar and the colleagues walked behind them, their laughter grating. "I'll give Skylar a ride," Marcus suddenly said. "It's on my way home." Grace smiled and nodded. "Drive safely." She watched Marcus's car drive out of the parking lot, then called a taxi. "Follow that black Audi," she told the driver. Marcus did not take Skylar home. The car stopped in front of a motel, and the two walked in hand in hand. Grace took photos and checked the time, 11 at night, the usual time he claimed to finish working overtime. Back home, Grace made a cup of coffee. On the laptop screen was her organized evidence folder, photos, videos, recordings, bank statements. Enough to ruin Marcus's reputation and career. But she wasn't in a hurry yet. Grace opened her phone, looking at a message from Marcus. "Darling, Skylar's place is too far, I might be back late. You go to sleep, don't wait for me." Grace replied, "Okay, drive safe." She put down her phone and opened her closet. In the innermost compartment was a hidden space, concealing an envelope. Grace took out the photos inside. They were taken last week by someone she hired, showing Marcus and Skylar viewing a model home. The real estate agent's smile was fawning, and Marcus had his arm around Skylar's waist, pointing at the model home and saying something. The photo date was the week Grace was on a business trip, when Marcus said he was going to meet a client. Grace added the new photos to the envelope and locked it back in the hidden space. Outside the window, the night rain began again. She stood by the window, waiting for her husband to return, her expression as calm as still water. The morning sun streamed into the bedroom through the sheer curtains, and Grace opened her eyes to find a dark blue velvet box on her nightstand. She reached out and opened it. Inside was a diamond necklace, glittering with a cold light in the morning sun. "Happy anniversary," Marcus said, standing by the bed with a breakfast tray, his smile so tender it could melt. 7 years, darling. Grace sat up, her fingers gently caressing the necklace. She remembered the style. Skylar had posted it on Instagram last month, captioned "good taste," and Grace had even liked the post. "Do you like it?" Marcus put down the tray and personally put the necklace on her. "I specifically asked a friend to bring it back from Italy for you." Grace touched the diamond at her collarbone. It felt cold and piercing. "It's beautiful, thank you." She looked up, accepting her husband's kiss, tasting the minty toothpaste and the falseness on his lips. Breakfast was heart-shaped fried eggs and freshly squeezed orange juice. Marcus sat opposite her, his gaze burning into her. "I booked a table at the restaurant tonight, just the two of us." Grace slowly sipped her orange juice, the sweet and sour taste spreading across her tongue. "You're not working today?" "I took half a day off." Marcus wiped his mouth. "I have an important meeting this afternoon, and I'll come pick you up after it's done." He glanced at his watch. "I have to go, darling." Grace walked him to the door, straightening his tie. Marcus took the opportunity to put his arm around her waist and whispered in her ear, 7 years, and I still love you so much." After the elevator door closed, the smile on Grace's face instantly vanished. She took off the necklace and examined it carefully against the light, finding a tiny inscription on the clasp, "LYZMY." Skylar and Marcus's initials. Grace put the necklace back in its box and picked up her phone to check the GPS. Marcus's car wasn't heading towards the company, but towards the residences, Skylar's address. She opened her laptop and logged into cloud storage. The surveillance software she installed last night had already synchronized Marcus's phone photos. The latest photo was a selfie of Skylar in sexy lingerie, taken at 6 this morning, at which time he should have been preparing surprise breakfast. Grace closed her laptop and walked into the bathroom. While brushing her teeth, she found a small pink rhinestone hairpin wedged on the edge of the vanity, not her style. She picked up the hairpin, remembering Skylar's selfie from last week, wearing the same style in her hair. At noon, Grace met a private investigator at a coffee shop. The investigator handed her a USB drive. "What we captured yesterday is quite something." Grace inserted the USB drive into her laptop. In the video, Marcus and Skylar were kissing passionately in the apartment elevator, his hand slipping under her dress. The date was yesterday, and the time showed 3 in the afternoon. He had told Grace he was meeting a client. "And this?" The investigator slid a copy of a receipt across the table. "Your husband paid a year's rent last month, using a joint account." Grace looked at the amount, enough to buy the handbag she had long admired. Every time she passed the display window, Marcus would say, "It's too expensive." Back home, Grace hid the USB drive in the hidden space. Just as she composed herself, Marcus's call came in. "Darling, the meeting's over, I'm heading back to pick you up now." The restaurant was located in the tallest building downtown. Marcus had reserved a window table, where the city lights outside poured down like a river of stars. "Do you remember our first date?" Marcus held Grace's hand. "It was a night view just like this." Grace smiled and nodded. Of course she remembered. Marcus had worn a light blue shirt that day and was so nervous he spilled red wine on the tablecloth. And now, on his wrist was a watch Skylar had given him, its surface sparkling in the candlelight. When the main course arrived, Marcus's phone lit up. Grace glimpsed the message preview on the lock screen. Miss you, our usual spot tonight? The sender was Skylar. That was the name he had saved for Skylar. Marcus flipped his phone over without changing his expression. Clients always call after work. He cut a piece of steak and fed it to Grace. Try it, your favorite medium rare. Grace obediently opened her mouth. The meat was tender, but it tasted like ash. Her gaze went past Marcus's shoulder, falling on the restaurant entrance. Skylar was walking in with another girl, wearing a low-cut dress, a familiar diamond glinting at her collarbone. What's wrong? Marcus turned his head, following her gaze, and visibly stiffened for a moment. That girl's necklace is the same as mine, Grace said deliberately. What a coincidence. Marcus's throat bobbed. It's probably a knockoff. He quickly changed the subject. Do you want chocolate lava cake or tiramisu for dessert? After dinner, Marcus suggested a walk. Passing a jewelry store, he pointed at a bracelet in the display window. Do you like it? I'll get it for your birthday next month. Grace remembered this bracelet. 2 weeks ago, Skylar had posted the same one on Instagram, caption best gift ever. She linked her arm through her husband's. It's too much, let's save up for a house instead. Marcus's expression subtly changed. A house? Didn't you say last time you wanted to move into a bigger one? Grace asked, feigning innocence. Oh, right. Marcus said vaguely. Let's wait until the market is better. Back home, Marcus said he had an urgent email to reply to and went into his home office. Grace changed into her pajamas, intentionally leaving the bedroom door ajar. Through the crack, she heard her husband's hushed voice. No, not today. She might get suspicious. Let's do it tomorrow during overtime. Grace gently closed the door and took out the voice recorder from under her pillow. She had bought it last week, and it had already recorded countless similar conversations. The next morning, Marcus woke up even earlier than usual. He made a lavish breakfast and even laid out Grace's clothes for the day. I have to work overtime today, might be very late. He kissed Grace's forehead. Don't wait up for me. Grace nodded. Drive safely. After left, Grace opened her phone tracking software. His car was indeed heading towards Skylar's apartment. She dialed a number. He's there, you can start. At 3 in the afternoon, Grace received a set of photos. Marcus and Skylar were kissing passionately on the balcony, the bedroom curtains wide open, with no attempt to hide. The photo angle showed the photographer was in the building opposite. Grace saved the photos and began organizing 7 years of photo albums. In every shared photo, Marcus smiled so genuinely, his arm around her so strongly. She scrolled to the most recent one and suddenly noticed Marcus wasn't wearing his wedding ring on his right ring finger. That day he had said he took it off for his workout. In the evening, Marcus sent a message, overtime might be all night, you go to sleep. He attached a photo of his office, deliberately showing a half-empty coffee cup in the corner. Grace zoomed in on the photo and saw a blurry reflection in the coffee cup. Skylar, wearing his shirt, was buttoning it up. She put down her phone and turned on the TV. The evening news was reporting local headlines when the screen suddenly cut to the entrance of a high-end hotel. The reporter excitedly covered a celebrity scandal, and in the background, Marcus and Skylar were walking hand in hand into a revolving door. Grace pressed the record button. The shot was fleeting, but clear enough to identify them. She turned off the TV and walked into the bathroom, turning on the faucet. Hot water cascaded over her body, but it couldn't wash away the dirty feeling of betrayal. Late at night, Grace was startled awake by the sound of the door opening. She pretended to be asleep, feeling Marcus quietly slip into bed, carrying the scent of unfamiliar shower gel. In the morning, Marcus had already made breakfast, looking refreshed. It's the company gala today, he said, tying his tie. Do you want to come? Grace stirred her oatmeal. Sure, what time? Marcus visibly paused. It starts at 7. But doesn't your department have a project due tomorrow? I can postpone it. Grace looked him directly in the eyes. I want to meet your colleagues. Marcus's smile was a little stiff. Well, that's great. He checked his watch. I need to go early to prepare. I'll pick you up tonight? Grace nodded. After left, she immediately called Sarah. Can you check for me if their company gala allows guests? At noon, Sarah called back. I asked HR, this year only spouses are allowed. She paused. But has to attend as a department assistant. Grace smiled. Perfect. That evening, Grace wore a vibrant red dress and applied exquisite makeup. When saw her, his eyes widened. Darling, you look stunning today. The gala venue was opulent and sparkling. Marcus kept his arm around Grace's waist the entire time, showing off to colleagues. This is my wife, isn't she beautiful? Skylar, as staff, moved among the guests in a pure white dress. Whenever she came near, Marcus's fingers would subtly tighten. Marcus and Grace are truly a model couple. Alex from the marketing department raised his glass. When are you having kids? Marcus laughed it off. We'll let nature take its course. Grace noticed the triumphant curve of Skylar's lips when she heard this. She deliberately moved closer to her husband. Darling, I'm feeling a bit dizzy. Will you come to the balcony with me for some fresh air? The balcony was empty. Just as Marcus was about to say something, Grace suddenly pointed into the distance. Is that your colleague? While he turned his head, Grace quickly slipped a remote-controlled voice recorder into his suit pocket, a new model she had bought that could transmit in real time. Back in the ballroom, the host announced the start of the dance. Marcus chivalrously invited Grace for the first dance. As the music began, his phone vibrated. Grace glimpsed the screen light up with, "I'll go to the room and wait for you first," still from Skylar. After the dance, Marcus said he needed to go to the restroom. Grace sat in a corner, listening to the voice recorder through her phone. Why did she suddenly decide to come today? Skylar's voice carried dissatisfaction. I don't know, maybe she's getting suspicious. Marcus panted. Hurry, I can't be away for too long. Sounds of fabric rubbing, wet kisses, then Skylar's seductive murmur. Tell me, who's better, me or her? Of course you are. Marcus's voice was muffled. I haven't had any feelings for her in a long time. Grace turned off her phone and walked towards the restroom. The woman in the mirror had a pale face, only her lips were a striking red. She reapplied her lipstick and almost bumped into Skylar as she turned. Grace, Skylar smiled sweetly. Marcus is looking for you. Grace looked at the hickey on the girl's neck and softly said, Tell him I'm not feeling well and I've gone home. She called a taxi, N.O.T. waiting for Marcus. Back home, Grace opened her laptop and saved tonight's recording to her evidence folder. This folder already occupied half of her hard drive space. Outside, it began to rain, raindrops tapping against the glass like countless tiny mocking sounds. Grace stood by the window, watching Marcus's car drive into the neighborhood. She quickly lay down in bed, feigning sleep. Marcus quietly came in and stayed in the bathroom for a long time. When he finally lay down, Grace turned her back to him, her eyes open, waiting for dawn. At 6:15 in the morning, Grace was woken by sounds from the kitchen. She opened her eyes, and on her nightstand was a steaming cup of honey water, Marcus's unwavering morning ritual. Grace propped herself up. Under the glass was a note, Darling, I'm on a business trip today, won't be able to have dinner with you tonight. Love you. The handwriting was neat, with a small heart drawn at the end. She picked up her phone and unlocked the screen. The surveillance software showed that Marcus's car was parked in the residence's, Skylar's address. Grace took a screenshot, saved it, then opened her cloud photo album. Among the photos synchronized last night, there was a selfie of Skylar wearing Marcus's shirt, the background being a hotel bathroom mirror, reflecting the sleeping man's profile on the bed. Grace deleted her browsing history on the phone and got up to wash. Passing the home office, she paused. Marcus's briefcase was on the table, its zipper not fully closed. She put on gloves and gently opened it. Inside were neatly stacked documents, the top one being a purchase agreement. The buyer's name was left blank, but the property address was clearly Lakeside, which Skylar had often mentioned. Grace took photos of every page with her phone, then put everything back exactly as it was. At breakfast, Marcus called, Darling, I'm at the airport. Airport announcements could be heard in the background, but Grace keenly caught a faint female giggle. Have a safe trip, Grace sipped her coffee. What time do you land? I'll pick you up. There was a second of hesitation on the other end. No need, the company arranged for pickup. It might be very late, you get some rest. After hanging up, Grace opened her laptop. In her email was a message from the private investigator, with an attachment of the surveillance video from Marcus and Skylar checking into the hotel front desk last night. In the footage, Marcus wore a baseball cap and a mask, but his wedding ring on his left ring finger sparkled under the lights. Grace saved the video to an encrypted folder, labeled Home Inspiration, which now contained 237 files. She opened the newly added purchase agreement photos and zoomed in to examine them. The agreement had no signature, but the developer's stamp showed Prestige, Marcus's college classmates' company. The phone suddenly rang, displaying Sarah. Guess who I just saw? Her best friend's voice was hushed. You're and Skylar, at the Hermes store in the financial. Grace's fingers tightened. When? Right now. I saw them while shopping. Sarah paused. That bitch was trying on a bag, and your husband was swiping his card so nonchalantly. Grace opened her mobile banking app. Sure enough, there was a 98,000 yuan expense from the joint account that morning, with the remark equipment procurement. Take a few photos for me. Grace's voice was terrifyingly calm. Half an hour later, Grace received the photos from Sarah. Skylar, arm in arm with Marcus, carried a brand new orange gift box, beaming with triumph. Marcus, impeccably dressed in a suit, looked every bit the refined executive, completely unlike someone rushing to catch a flight. Grace zoomed in on the photos and noticed something unusual on Skylar's other hand, a diamond ring, very similar in style to her own wedding ring, but with a main stone at least twice as large. She put down her phone and walked into the walk-in closet. The bottom drawer contained a safe. Grace entered the code and took out a stack of documents. These were the draft divorce agreement she had retrieved from Mr. David last week. The property division section was still blank. At noon, Grace met with her bank's client manager. In the VIP room, she handed over a list. Please print out the bank statements for these accounts for the past 2 years. The client manager looked hesitant. Mrs. Marcus, these are Mr. Marcus's private accounts, they require his authorization. Grace took a notarized document from her bag. This is a joint property declaration, I have the right to inquire. 2 hours later, a thick stack of bank statements lay before Grace. She circled over a dozen significant transfers in red pen, the recipients all being prestige. The most recent transfer was 3 days ago, the exact amount for the down payment on the lakeside villa. Leaving the bank, a fine rain began to fall. Grace didn't have an umbrella, and the rain wet her shoulders. She stood in the rain and sent a message to Marcus. How's your business trip? Missing you. The message showed as read, but there was no reply. It wasn't until 8 in the evening that Marcus called. Darling, the meeting schedule was too packed today, I just got back to the hotel. The background noise was quiet, not like a hotel environment. Grace heard the faint clinking of porcelain, Skylar's favorite set of English bone china. You must be tired, Grace said, standing by the home office window, looking at the city lights blurred by the rain. What time are you back tomorrow? I'll pick you up. No, I'm going straight to the office. Marcus's voice suddenly faded. Hand that over to me. Then it returned to normal. Honey, I'm going to take a shower now. See you tomorrow. The call ended. Grace opened the tracking app. The small red dot representing Marcus was still stationary at the residences. She took a screenshot, saved it, then dialed her private invest. Igator's number. I need internal documents from Prestige, especially Marcus's purchase records, she paused, and an expedited check of Skylar's bank statements. The next morning, Grace was woken by the doorbell. A delivery person stood at the door, holding a large bouquet of red roses. Mrs. Marcus, your flowers. After signed for them, she took a card from the bouquet. Even on a business trip, I can't stop thinking about you. Tonight, I'll make it up to you. Dinner is booked. Your loving husband. She tossed the flowers into the trash, keeping only the card as evidence. Her phone rang. It was Marcus. Honey, did you get the flowers? Yes, they're beautiful. Grace walked into the kitchen and started making breakfast. Did you sleep well last night? Not bad, but the hotel bed was too hard. Marcus's voice held a smile. Tonight, I'm taking you out for French dinner. I booked your favorite restaurant. Grace knew that restaurant. It cost at least $3,000 per person. Last week, Skylar had posted on Instagram about celebrating her birthday there. In a corner of the photo, half of a man's hand was visible, wearing the same watch as Marcus. Sounds good. Grace flipped the fried egg. Oh, by the way, my mom's birthday is next week. Remember to keep your schedule open. A few seconds of silence followed on the other end of the line. Next week? What day exactly? The 23rd. Grace said deliberately, you haven't forgotten again, have you? Of course not. Marcus let out a dry laugh. It's just, I might have a business trip to San on the 23rd. The client was booked ages ago. Grace turned off the stove. Skylar's Instagram stated that the 23rd was her and Marcus's anniversary, and they planned to vacation in Maui. What a shame. Grace's voice was light. Then I'll just take Mom to a luxury resort and spa. I'll use the credit card you gave me last time. That secondary card was linked to Marcus's private account. After hanging up, Grace immediately booked the most expensive luxury resort and spa online, deliberately choosing 12-month installments when paying. In the afternoon, Grace went to the law firm. Mr. David looked through the evidence she brought, his brow furrowing deeper and deeper. The situation is more serious than I imagined. Mr. David adjusted his glasses. Mr. Taylor is not only transferring assets, but he's also suspected of fabricating debts. These transfers made under the company's name have actually gone into his mistress's account. Grace opened her phone, showing the latest photos she'd received. Marcus and Skylar were signing papers at the real estate office, with a model of a villa in Lakeside in the background. This house is registered in Skylar's name, but the down payment came from our joint assets. Grace's voice was frighteningly calm. I want to file for divorce before he completes all the transfers. Mr. David nodded. We still need more conclusive evidence to prove that these fund transfers are malicious. If we can get a recording of them admitting it themselves. After leaving the law firm, Grace went to the electronics store. She bought a miniature voice recorder that looked like a regular USB drive. Back home, she placed it into the inner pocket of Marcus's suit jacket, the very one he planned to wear to his French dinner date tonight. At 7 in the evening, Marcus arrived home promptly. He wore a crisp, dark blue suit, and a faint scent of cologne emanated from him. Honey, you look beautiful today. He admired Grace's black dress. Is this dress new? Grace smiled and nodded. It had just arrived yesterday, the same style Skylar had shown off last week, only a different color. The restaurant was dimly lit, and a violinist played in the corner. Marcus ordered the most expensive red wine. When he raised his glass, his diamond cufflinks sparkled. Grace remembered they were Skylar's birthday gift to him. To us. Marcus gazed at her affectionately. Next month will be our 7th wedding, eh? Niversary. Grace took a sip of wine. 7 years, enough time to see someone's true colors. She asked casually, how's work going lately? I heard you took on a new project. Marcus's hand paused as he cut his steak. It's a big client. He quickly changed the subject. Oh, I might have to work late next weekend, so I won't be able to spend time with you. Grace knew next weekend was Skylar's birthday. She had already seen screenshots of the resort booking on Skylar's social media. What a shame. Grace sighed. I had actually wanted to go see new houses with you. The real estate agent said there's one that's perfect for us, right in Lakeside. Marcus's fork clattered onto his plate. The waiter quickly came to replace it, and Marcus used the opportunity to compose himself. Why the sudden desire to move? The place we're in now is too small, Grace said, looking him directly in the eyes. And I'm planning to have a baby. This was her bait. Marcus had always postponed their family planning, citing insufficient financial resources. In reality, he had already prepared a nursery for Skylar. The design blueprints captured by the private investigator clearly marked a nursery. Marcus's expression became complicated. About that. Let's discuss it again. He glanced at his watch. Would you like dessert? I remember you like their souffle. On the way home, Marcus received a call. Grace pretended to look out the window, but her ears perked up. No, I really can't tomorrow. I said we'll talk about it this weekend. He lowered his voice. Stop messing around. Didn't I give you the money already? Grace's fingers quietly slipped into his suit jacket pocket, confirming the voice recorder was still running. After arriving home, Marcus said he had an urgent email to reply to and went into his home office. Grace changed into her pajamas and took out another voice recorder from a secret compartment. She had hidden it behind the bookshelf in the home office yesterday. The contents of both voice recorders allowed her to piece together the truth. Marcus was indeed transferring assets, and Skylar was pregnant, which was why they were in a hurry to buy a house. Late at night, when Marcus got into bed, Grace pretended to be fast asleep. He gently kissed her forehead, then turned his back. In the moonlight, Grace opened her eyes, staring at the back of her husband's head, planning her next move. Tomorrow was Friday, Marcus's working late day, and had already arranged a chance encounter. The morning sun streamed through the gap in the curtains. Grace opened her eyes. The digital clock on her bedside table showed 6:30 a.m. It was Friday, Marcus's working late day. Grace got up and took the voice recorder from under her pillow. Last night, while talking in his sleep, Marcus had clearly called Skylar's name and mumbled, "The villa will be in your name." She saved the recording to a folder labeled Evidence. This folder already occupied most of her computer storage. In the kitchen, Grace was brewing coffee when her phone vibrated. Her private investigator sent a message, "Have obtained internal documents from Prestige. Marcus indeed has a villa registered under Skylar's mother's name. They will be at the real estate office at 10 this morning to pay the final installment." Grace took a sip of black coffee, the bitterness spreading on her tongue. She opened her mobile banking app. The joint account balance showed less than $50,000 remaining. 3 months prior, there had been over $2 million in savings. The doorbell rang. Grace opened the door to find Sarah standing outside with breakfast, her expression grave. Are you sure you want to go through with it today? If we wait any longer, we won't even be able to keep this house, Grace said, taking the coffee. He's already paid the down payment for the villa, today he's paying the final installment. Sarah pulled a USB drive from her bag. Everything you need is in here. Hotel surveillance, bank transfer records, and, she paused, Skylar's pregnancy test results. Grace's fingers tightened, deforming the plastic cup. The scalding coffee spilled out, reddening her skin, but she felt no pain. 8 weeks pregnant, Sarah said softly. Right around the time your mom was hospitalized. Grace put down the cup and walked into the home office. Inside the safe lay a complete divorce agreement, with the property division already filled out. She would get the house, savings, and car, while Marcus could only take his clothes and personal belongings. Is David ready? Grace checked the documents. He's already waiting at the real estate office. Sarah hesitated. What about your parents? They'll be there today too. Grace's voice was frighteningly calm. I want them to see with their own eyes what kind of man their good son-in-law truly is. Exactly 9 o'clock, Grace changed into her black suit dress. Marcus always said it was too serious and didn't suit her. She applied meticulous makeup and bright red lipstick. The woman in the mirror had a sharp gaze, no longer showing any trace of her former meekness. Let's go, she told Sarah. The show is about to begin. The property's real estate office was lavish and opulent. Grace and Mr. David sat in the waiting area next to the VIP room. Through the half-open blinds, they could clearly see what was happening inside. At 10:05 a.m., Marcus walked in with his arm around Skylar's waist. Skylar wore a loose-fitting dress. Her abdomen showed no visible change, but her hand kept unconsciously resting on her lower belly. A sales associate eagerly greeted them. Marcus, Skylar, the contract is ready. Grace opened her phone and started recording. The final installment is $3 million, to be paid today as agreed. Marcus took out his checkbook from his briefcase. It's payable to Prestige, right? Skylar leaned against his shoulder, her voice sweet. Honey, is the property deed really going to be in my M's name? For now, yes. Marcus patted her hand. Once I divorce her, I'll transfer it to you. Just then, the VIP room door was pushed open. Grace's parents stood at the doorway, their faces ashen. Her father, a retired judge, held a stack of documents in his hand. Dad? Mom? Marcus shot up, his checkbook clattering to the floor. How could you? How did we know you were here today, giving a house to your mistress? Mr. Williams' voice boomed like thunder. Grace told us everything. Skylar's face turned pale. She instinctively hid behind Marcus. Marcus tried to compose himself. Dad, you've misunderstood. This is an investment property. It's in her mother's name too. To what? Grace emerged from behind her parents, holding the voice recorder. To transfer our joint assets? Marcus's face instantly drained of color. Honey, let me explain. No need to explain. Grace pressed play. Marcus's voice clearly echoed through the room. Once I divorce her, I'll transfer the villa to you. Her frumpy wife can't compare to you. Skylar suddenly lunged forward. How dare you spy on us? She raised her hand to strike Grace. Grace easily caught her wrist. So much anger, especially when you're pregnant? She pulled a piece of paper from her bag. These are your pregnancy test results. 8 weeks. That's exactly when my mom was hospitalized. Marcus claimed he was there with her, but he was actually with you, wasn't he? Skylar stumbled backward, bumping into the coffee table. Marcus tried to help her, but Mr. William blocked him. My daughter married you 7 years ago. Is this how you repay her? Dad, Don't call me Dad. Mr. William roared. From today, we are disowning you. Mr. David stepped forward at the right moment. Marcus, this is the divorce agreement proposed by my client, Ms. Grace. Given your actions of transferring assets and marital infidelity, we demand that you leave with nothing. Marcus's face twisted. Dream on. The house and car are half mine, are they? Grace sneered, taking a stack of papers from the envelope. These are records of funds you transferred from the joint account over the past 2 years, totaling $4.65 million. Where did all that money go? She pointed at Skylar. Her bags, jewelry, and now this villa, they were all bought with our joint assets. Skylar shrieked. You're lying. These were all gifts from Marcus. Large gifts made without spousal consent are invalid. Mr. David adjusted his glasses. Miss Skylar, all valuable items registered under your name will be reclaimed. Marcus suddenly lunged at Grace. You treacherous woman. You set me up. Mr. William quickly intercepted him. Several security guards rushed over upon hearing the commotion. The scene dissolved into chaos. Skylar collapsed to the floor, sobbing, while Marcus, held down by security, was still roaring threats. Grace calmly photographed everything, then turned and left. Stepping out of the real estate office, the sunlight stung her eyes. 7 years of marriage ended just like that. A month later, the divorce decree was issued. Due to Marcus's irrefutable evidence of malicious asset transfer and marital infidelity, the court granted all of Grace's requests. The property, savings, and car became hers, and Marcus was ordered to compensate her $200,000 for emotional distress. Skylar was forced to return all valuable gifts, including the diamond ring. At the company gala, the HR department suddenly played a video, footage of Marcus and Skylar having an affair in the office. When the video ended, large characters appeared on the screen. Integrity is fundamental. Talent and virtue are paramount. Marcus, you are fired. Grace sat in the corner, watching Marcus being escorted out by security. As he passed her, he glared at her viciously. Grace simply raised her champagne glass and smiled faintly. Life after the divorce was peaceful and fulfilling. Grace sold the house filled with memories and opened a small coffee shop downtown. The most popular item in the shop was a special blend called Rebirth. In the 3rd month of opening, a familiar figure pushed the door open. Liam, her former classmate from college, now a partner at a well-known law firm. I heard your Americanos are excellent here, he said with a smile, sitting down. No discount for an old classmate? Grace personally brewed him a coffee. As they talked about their college days, Liam suddenly said, I actually always wanted to contact you, but I heard you got married. I'm divorced now, Grace said frankly. Liam's gaze was warm. So, I have a chance? Grace smiled and shook her head. Right now, I just want to focus on running this shop well. I can wait. Liam handed her a business card. For any legal advice, feel free to call me anytime. Days turned into weeks, and Liam became a regular at the coffee shop. He never overstepped, simply working quietly in a corner, occasionally helping Grace fix a leaky pipe or carry heavy items. One day, 6 months later, a torrential rain poured down. After the last customer left, Grace was about to close up when the doorbell rang again. Marcus stood at the door, soaking wet, his face unshaven, his eyes bloodshot. Grace. His voice was hoarse. I was wrong. Please give me another chance. Grace stood still, suddenly realizing that the man who had once haunted her thoughts now only filled her with a sense of unfamiliarity and a touch of pity. Where's Skylar? She asked calmly. Marcus's expression twisted. That treacherous woman. She aborted the baby and ran off after she found out I was bankrupt. He knelt down. Honey, let's start over. Get out. Grace's voice was quiet, but each word was like an ice blade. Or I'll call the police. Marcus tried to say something else, but a tall figure stepped in front of Grace. Liam had emerged from the restroom at some point, holding his phone. Do you need me to call 911? Marcus looked at him, then at Grace, and suddenly burst out laughing. I me. W it. You hooked up with him ages ago, didn't you? You tree. Liam grabbed his collar. Say one more word, and I'll make you experience jail time. He lowered his voice. Don't forget, I have evidence of your embezzlement. Marcus's face turned ashen, and he staggered away. Grace closed the door, her legs giving way as she almost fell. Liam caught her. It's all right. The rain gradually ceased, and a ray of golden sunlight broke through the clouds from the setting sun. Grace looked at Liam's concerned eyes, and something in her heart suddenly melted. Thank you, she said softly. Would you like to stay for dinner? Liam smiled. It would be my pleasure. The following spring, Grace's coffee shop opened a second location. On opening day, Liam knelt on one knee in front of everyone, presenting a simple diamond ring. This time, can I officially get in line? He asked. Grace smiled and extended her hand. You've been first in line all along. Their wedding was simple, inviting only their closest friends and family. Grace wore a minimalist white dress, no elaborate gown, no luxury car, but the smile on her face was more genuine than ever. Upon returning from their honeymoon, Grace found a letter in the shop. It was unsigned, but she recognized the handwriting. It was Marcus's. The letter stated that he had left the city to work and pay off his debts in the South. The last sentence read, "You won." Grace tossed the letter into the shredder. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about her finally understanding that true victory wasn't revenge, but living a better life than before. As she was closing up in the evening, a young girl timidly walked in. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she clutched a divorce agreement in her hand. Excuse me. Are you Grace? The girl's voice trembled. My friend said, "You might be able to help me." Grace put down her rag and smiled gently. "Come, have some hot tea first. Take your time." Outside the window, the sun was setting, and a new day was drawing to a close. But for some, a brand new life was just beginning.